The scream of hydraulics filled the freezing chamber as Han Solo's body disappeared into the carbonite. Leia's heart shattered. Chewbacca roared in anguish. Lando shouted orders to move, to run, to get out before Vader turned on them next. But Leia didn't move. She stood frozen not by carbonite, but by something else. Something deep. Something impossible to explain. A pull. A voice without words. A presence crying out in pain. Luke.
Leia, we have to go.
Lando grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the exit. Stormtroopers flooded the corridors. The city was lost. Escape was the only option. But she ripped her arm free. No. Chewbacca growled, confused. Lando stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. But every instinct in her body screamed that leaving now would be the worst mistake of her life. "Luke's in danger," she said, her voice shaking. "I can feel it." "Feel it?" Lando's eyes widened. "Leia, we don't have time." "I'm not leaving him." She didn't wait for permission. She turned and ran, not toward the landing platform, not toward safety, but deeper into the city, toward the carbon freezing chamber's lower corridors, toward the reactor shaft, where Luke had gone to face Vader alone. Chewbacca howled and bolted after her. Lando cursed under his breath and followed, blaster in hand. None of them understood what was happening. Leia didn't understand it either. But the pull was undeniable. It wasn't panic. It wasn't fear. It was connection. Luke was her friend, her ally. But this was something more. Something ancient. Something the Force itself had hidden from her until this very moment. The corridors twisted and turned. Alarms blared. The city was evacuating. But Leia pushed forward, guided by something she couldn't see but absolutely trusted. And then she heard it. The hum of a lightsaber. The clash of blades. Luke's voice, strained and desperate. And Vader's, cold and commanding. She burst through the final door and saw them. Luke's back slammed against the railing. His lightsaber barely held against Vader's crushing downward strike. The Dark Lord loomed over him, mechanical breathing echoing through the chamber like a death knell. "You are weak, young Skywalker." Luke gritted his teeth, arms trembling. He couldn't hold much longer. Then a voice cut through the darkness. "Get away from him!" Vader's head snapped up. Leia stood at the chamber entrance, blaster raised, Chewbacca and Lando flanking her. She fired 3 bolts in rapid succession. Vader deflected them effortlessly with his lightsaber. But it was enough. Luke rolled away, gasping for breath. "Leia, no! Get out of here!" But she didn't listen. She never did. She charged forward, firing again and again, forcing Vader to shift his attention. Chewbacca roared and opened fire from the doorway. Lando targeted the control panels, trying to trigger another carbonite trap. Vader moved like a storm. His lightsaber spun, deflecting every shot. But his focus was divided now. He raised his hand toward Leia, reaching through the Force to hurl her aside. And stopped. Something flickered. A presence, strong, familiar, impossible. Vader's hand trembled. Leia felt it too, a coldness wrapping around her throat, then suddenly releasing. She stumbled, confused. Why had he stopped? Luke seized the moment. He lunged forward, lightsaber blazing, forcing Vader to pivot and block. The 2 blades locked, blue against red, sparks flying. "Your feelings betray you, young Skywalker," Vader said, his voice strangely quiet. "You care for them, especially her." Luke's eyes widened. "Stay away from her." "Who is she?" Vader's tone shifted, less menacing, more probing. His mask turned toward Leia, who stood frozen, blaster still raised. "Why do I sense pie?" He stopped mid-sentence. No, it couldn't be. The Force surged around Leia like a storm she didn't understand. She felt Vader's gaze pierce through her, felt something ancient and terrifying and impossibly sad reach out toward her. And for the first time in her life, Princess Leia Organa felt the Force reach back. Vader stood motionless. The galaxy seemed to stop. Luke's lightsaber hummed, ready to strike. Leia's finger tightened on the trigger. Chewbacca growled, waiting for the next move. But Vader didn't attack. He stared at Leia. Through the Force, he felt her presence, untrained, raw, but undeniably powerful. The same bloodline, the same signature, the same everything. No, this was impossible. Padme had carried twins. The realization struck him like a blade through the chest. Obi-Wan had lied. The Emperor had lied. Or perhaps they simply hadn't known. One child had been hidden on Tatooine. The other had been hidden on Alderaan. His son, his daughter, both alive. Both standing before him. Leia. Vader's voice was barely a whisper, distorted through the mask. Leia Organa. She flinched. How did he know her name? Why did he sound different? Stay back, she warned, aiming her blaster directly at his chest. But Vader lowered his lightsaber. Luke stared, utterly confused. What are you doing? Vader's breathing grew heavier, more labored. His thoughts spiraled. He had spent years hunting the boy, obsessed with turning him, claiming him. But the girl, he had tortured her on the Death Star. He had destroyed her home. He had caused her unimaginable pain. And she was his daughter. You don't understand, Vader said slowly, his voice cracking through the vocoder. Neither of you understand. Understand what? Leia demanded, her voice sharp as a blade. That you're a monster? That you killed my father, my real father? Vader flinched. Luke stepped forward, confused and desperate. Leia, something's wrong. I am your father. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Luke's face went white. Leia's blaster wavered. Both of you, Vader continued, his voice trembling with something that might have been anguish. You are both my children. The chamber fell silent. And in that silence, the galaxy changed forever. Leia's blaster clattered to the floor. No. Her voice was barely a whisper. No, you're lying. Luke stumbled backward, shaking his head. That's impossible. Ben never said. Obi-Wan lied to you, Vader interrupted, his voice raw. He hid the truth from both of us. Leia's hands trembled. Her entire world was collapsing. Bail Organa was her father. Breha Organa was her mother. Not this. But deep down, something inside her recognized the truth. The Force didn't lie. She looked at Luke, and in that instant, everything changed. A flood of memories, feelings, connections she'd never understood suddenly made sense. The pull she'd felt toward him since they first met. The way they moved together in battle, as if they shared the same heartbeat. The reason she'd turned back tonight, defying all logic. They were twins. The Force bound them together, stronger than any chain, deeper than any ocean. Luke felt it too. His eyes met hers, wide with shock and recognition. Leia, I can feel you. I've always felt you. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I know. Their bond ignited like a star. Vader staggered backward, overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of their connection. The light pouring from them was blinding. He raised a hand to shield himself not from a weapon, but from hope. Stop, he whispered, his voice breaking. Please, stop. But they couldn't. Luke reached out to Leia. She took his hand, and the Force exploded around them. Vader fell to one knee, his armor groaning under the weight of their combined presence. For the first time in 20 years, he felt warmth, not fire, not rage. Love. Father. Luke's voice trembled, but it wasn't a question anymore. It was a plea. If you ever cared about our mother, if any part of you is still Anakin Skywalker, help us. Vader's breathing hitched. Somewhere beneath the mask, a man who had lost everything began to remember why he'd fallen in the first place. He had wanted to save the ones he loved. And now, impossibly, They stood before him. Vader's voice was hollow, stripped of its usual menace. Your mother's name was Padme Amidala. Leia's breath caught. She'd heard that name before. A senator, a queen, a legend from the Clone Wars. She was everything, Vader continued, his words slow and deliberate, as if each one caused him pain. And I destroyed her. Luke knelt beside him, lightsaber deactivated. What happened? I was a Jedi once, Anakin Skywalker. The name felt foreign on his lips, like speaking a dead language. I fell in love with your mother. We married in secret. She became pregnant. Leia's fists clenched. She wanted to scream, to run, to unhear every word. But she couldn't move. I had visions, Vader said. Visions of her death. I would have done anything to save her. The Jedi Council refused to help. But Palpatine, he promised me the power to stop death itself. So, you betrayed them? Leia's voice was ice. You murdered them? Yes. No hesitation, no excuse. I slaughtered the Jedi. I helped destroy the Republic. And when your mother discovered what I had become, his voice cracked. She could not bear it. She died believing I was lost forever. Because you were, Leia spat. Luke placed a hand on her shoulder, but she shrugged it off. Tears burned her eyes, not of sadness, but fury. Obi-Wan took you both from me, Vader continued. I believed you had died with her. For 20 years, I believed I had nothing left. And then, I found Luke. He turned his mask toward his son. I wanted to save you, to train you, to give you the power I never had. To turn me into a weapon, Luke said quietly. To give you a choice I never had. Vader's breathing grew labored. But now I see, I was wrong, about everything. Lando's voice crackled over the comlink. Leia, the city's evacuating. We have to move. Vader slowly rose to his feet. Go, he said, before the Emperor learns what has happened here. But none of them moved. The moment hung in the balance. We can save him. Leia whirled on Luke, eyes blazing. Save him? Are you insane? Luke stood firm, his voice calm but urgent. I felt it, Leia. He's still in there. Anakin Skywalker is still. Anakin Skywalker is dead, Leia's voice echoed through the chamber. He tortured me, Luke. He watched Alderaan burn. Billions of people gone because of him. I know. Luke's voice cracked. I know what he's done. But he's our father. And if there's even a chance. A chance? Leia laughed bitterly. A chance for what? Redemption? Forgiveness? He doesn't deserve it. Vader stood motionless, his head bowed. He didn't defend himself, didn't argue. He simply listened. Chewbacca growled nervously. Lando shifted, clearly uncomfortable. This wasn't a conversation they could mediate. Luke stepped closer to Leia, his voice gentle. I understand your anger. I feel it too. But if we kill him now, we become what he is. We let the dark side win. He let the dark side win, Leia shot back. Not us, him. And maybe he can make it right. Luke turned toward Vader. Help us. Help us stop the Emperor. End this war. However, unquote. Vader's breathing filled the silence. Leia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. You're asking me to fight alongside the man who murdered my family, my planet, my entire world. I'm asking you to trust me, Luke said softly. Like you trusted the Force tonight. Like you trusted your instincts when you came back for me. Leia's hands trembled, every fiber of her being screamed to walk away, to let Vader rot in the hell he'd created. But when she looked at Luke, her brother, she saw something she couldn't ignore. Hope. Foolish, reckless, impossible hope. If he betrays us, Leia said coldly, locking eyes with Vader, I will kill him myself. Vader nodded slowly. I would expect nothing less, daughter. The word hung between them, fragile and dangerous. And then the alarm screamed. Imperial reinforcements were coming. On Coruscant, in the depths of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine screamed. The Force howled through him like a hurricane, carrying a single, undeniable truth. Vader had been compromised. The boy was bad enough, strong, defiant, full of his father's arrogance, but now there was another, a girl, equally strong, equally dangerous. The daughter. Palpatine had known, of course, he always knew, but he had deemed her irrelevant, a politician playing at rebellion, no threat to his grand design. He had been wrong. And Vader, his greatest weapon, his most loyal servant, had broken the moment he discovered the truth. "Fool," Palpatine hissed, his yellow eyes blazing. "Sentimental fool." He reached out through the Force, across the galaxy, searching for Vader's presence, their Cloud City. He felt the conflict, the hesitation, the weakness. And he felt something worse. Hope. Palpatine's withered hands clenched into fists. Hope was a disease. It spread. It infected. And if the galaxy learned that Vader had turned, that the Skywalker twins stood together against the Empire, the rebellion would ignite like wildfire. He activated the holo communicator. Admiral Piet's face appeared, nervous as always. "My lord?" "Deploy the Executor to Cloud City immediately," Palpatine commanded. "Lord Vader has been compromised. Capture the Skywalker twins. Kill anyone who stands in your way." Piet's face went pale. "My lord, Lord Vader is—" "No longer your concern." Palpatine's voice was venomous. "If he resists, you have my permission to fire on him as well." The transmission ended. Palpatine rose from his throne, robes billowing like shadows. He had built this empire on the ashes of the Jedi. He had corrupted Anakin Skywalker and forged him into Darth Vader. He would not lose him to sentiment. And if Vader could not be saved, then he would be replaced. The Emperor reached out through the dark side, summoning his inquisitors, his assassins, his most ruthless agents. The Skywalker family would be hunted to the edges of the galaxy. And this time, there would be no escape. The corridors of Cloud City shook with explosions. "Move! Move!" Lando shouted, leading them toward the landing platform where the Millennium Falcon waited. Luke and Leia ran side by side, their connection stronger than ever. Vader followed, his massive frame moving with surprising speed. Chewbacca roared, firing at the advancing stormtroopers. "We're not all going to fit," Lando yelled over the chaos. "We don't have a choice," Leia shot back. They burst onto the platform. The Falcon's ramp was already lowering, but above them, Star Destroyers pierced the clouds, TIE fighters screaming toward the city. "They're not trying to capture us," Luke realized, horror dawning. "They're trying to kill us." "The Emperor knows," Vader said grimly. "He will not allow us to leave." Leia grabbed Luke's arm. "Then we fight our way out, together." The Falcon's engines roared to life. They scrambled aboard Lando at the controls, Chewbacca beside him, Luke and Leia strapping in, and Vader standing in the main hold, like a ghost from another life. The ship lurched upward. TIE fighters swarmed. Laser fire streaked past the cockpit. The city exploded behind them, the Empire's scorched earth orders carrying out without mercy. "Punch it!" Leia screamed. The Falcon leaped into hyperspace. Silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. Luke and Leia sat across from Vader, the three of them caught in a reality none of them had prepared for. "What now?" Leia finally asked, her voice exhausted. Vader removed his helmet. Luke gasped. Leia's breath caught. Beneath the mask was a man scarred, pale, barely human but a man nonetheless. Anakin Skywalker's eyes, blue and haunted, stared back at them. "Now," Anakin said quietly, "we finish what I started. We destroy the Emperor, together." Leia looked at Luke. Luke looked at Leia. And for the first time since this nightmare began, they nodded. The Skywalker family was united. And the galaxy would never be the same.